Hello, happy Monday. I wanted to talk a little bit about healing in the time of Corona. And so I'm somebody, if we don't know each other that well, I'm somebody who thinks a lot about healing. Um, I am a chronic illness survivor, have been living with chronic health challenges for more than 20 years. And I've been writing, and now editing a book that is about the psycho-spiritual aspects of healing, basically what you don't get in the doctor's office. And I wrote it because I I really want more people to feel empowered in their own healing and see that they have agency in their own healing. And even more than that, I want us to see that we have collective agency in changing the way that we do healing and healthcare in this country. And so many of the things that I'm writing about or that I wrote about in the book are coming up right now um, with pandemic. It's pretty wild. So like one of the things that I write about is the importance of seeing your own health challenges in the greater context of our world today, basically. So, like, chronic illness is different from coronavirus, right? That's like an acute thing. But I promise, I think it's going to all come together. But, more than half of Americans, adults and children, live with at least one chronic condition. And that's not surprising when you see the full picture of how environmental pollution, inequity, capitalism, racism, hierarchy, all the things influence not just our beings, but our bodies, right? So those things impact the way that we think, and the way we think impacts the way that we act, and the way that we act impacts the way that we take care of our health and our bodies. And there's so much that we don't have control over. So, for example, one of the things that's coming up right now is how so many more of the folks who are getting sick from coronavirus are African Americans. The African American community is getting hit so much harder than the rest of us. And on the news, they're sort of like, why is that? Which I'm sorry to laugh because it's a horrible thing, but it's like it just makes me so mad because nobody's talking about trauma. So this wonderful researcher Arlene Geronimus coined this term weathering to describe how people of color, Black folks, Black women in particular, experience poor health outcomes because of the trauma that they sustain on a daily basis, year after year after year, from everything that impacts Black communities, things that impact Black individuals in general. Then there's, I don't know if she talks about this specifically, but then there's intergenerational trauma. So the trauma that's already living in the cells of Black folks when they come out of the womb, before they even understand what racism is, before they've come into contact with that. So I want to encourage everyone who's interested in that to look up the term weathering, learn what it is, understand what it is, and think about how it's not just economics, it's not just structural racism. Yes, it's all that, and it's the trauma caused by those things. So there's a brilliant healer I know, Tada Hozumi, who talks about how trauma is the way oppression shows up in the body. And so something else to think about right now in this collective moment is the way that this is not only traumatizing us, but kicking up all of our old trauma, right? So especially childhood stuff. And that's why so people are experiencing this pandemic in really different ways. So some people feel surprisingly calm and they don't know why. Some people are desperately trying to control everything. Some people feel that what's happening outside is finally matching what they've been experiencing inside. I read a great piece about this today, and I'll include that in the comments, by a social worker. so there's so much that we can be doing right now but just by observing what's happening through the lens of trauma. So I wanted to say that. The other thing I wanted to say is it's so interesting to me that so much of what people are being forced to do now because of pandemic in the US, like staying home, wearing masks, not working, these are things that people with chronic illness and disability and different kinds of health challenges, mental health challenges, that's actually their life all the time, right? So people with multiple chemical sensitivities, for example, have to wear masks when they're out in public because going out in public is not safe for them. If they're walking down the street and fumes from somebody's laundry come, it means that they could be incapacitated for days. And I actually had a sort of my own trauma experience when we had to start staying at home, because for me it was just like my experience of being sick. And when I was really sick, and I didn't want that anymore. I was like, I worked so hard to be in a position where I didn't have to work from home, where I could go out and be with people. And just recently, in the last 9 months or so, have been so much more able-bodied and have been able to get out and be with people. And then when coronavirus forced me to go inside, I noticed that I was like, part of my inner child was like freaking out about it. And so that was interesting to notice. So I guess all of this is to say, I want to invite folks, and this is for myself too, to really observe. Let this be a time for observation. Like, how are you reacting to things, and see if you can observe without judgment. Like, oh, I observed that I spent 3 days watching TV and not doing anything. Great. And is there something underneath that you want to look at? Because not that you have to, but it's just an invitation, because there might be something there that with some understanding can support you in weathering the rest of the pandemic with more ease. Because this is what I do with folks in my healing work, is we look at, like I said, the psycho-spiritual side of healing. So like, what is it that's happening in our minds, that's happening in our hearts, that's keeping us sick? What is it that's keeping us from being able to transform our relationship with being sick, right? Because that's so much of it too, is like some of us will have conditions our whole lives. And so how are we being with that? And what is impacting the way that we're being with that? There's all these layers to the onion. And the onion can be a scary but very fascinating place. And so I guess those are some things that I wanted to share today. And I am going to be offering a workshop soon on how to design your own healing process. And this is going to be open not just to people with health challenges, but everyone, because this is a moment in which we need to do a lot of personal and collective healing. And that's going to look different for everyone. And like I said, my thing is really supporting folks to have their own experience with healing, right? Like I don't know what that means for you. I only know what it means for me. And I don't expect anyone's healing to look a certain way or have certain outcomes or even have any outcomes at all. But what I want is to create space for folks to see that they have tools inside of them to do their own healing if they want to. And we're all so much more powerful than we think we are in this particular moment, but then always. So if that's something that appeals to you, let me know and I'll put you on the list for this workshop when I get the details ready. And if any of this resonates with you or is interesting to you, it's something that I'm really interested in talking more about right now. These are the things that I think about when I'm trying to go to sleep at night. And the last thing I just want to offer is something that's been really supporting me in this moment, is lots of prayer and ritual, and just letting myself be heartbroken about what's happening, and at the same time allowing myself to experience joy. And so I share that because I know sometimes it can be hard to give yourself permission to do, well, anything, but also to experience joy when so many people are dying, so many people are struggling. But it is our birthright, and I think that we can't have enough reminders of that. So hope you have a wonderful week. Take good care. We will talk soon.